Jesse has opened 3 quick fixes in his opening hand. I believe that's Destarudo and 1 spell card I can't quite make out.
Welcome back to the European Championships 2018. I'm here with Matt Bell.
Hey Luke, how are you doing today?
We're rocking it. We're in round 6.
So, only 3 more rounds to go today before we make our first cut.
Yep.
That's going to be a harsh cut. We're going to lose all but... basically, the only people that are left in the tournament after that cut are people that could theoretically make the top cut.
Yeah, exactly. And even this, I think there's some... Oh, no, yeah, they have to be able to make it. Yeah.
Yeah, otherwise it's just...
That'd be pointless.
It doesn't make sense to cut them otherwise.
Yeah, absolutely. So we have a really interesting matchup for you again. We've been able to get some pretty reasonably cool decks over the course of today, so pretty happy with that. And the interesting deck for this one is Matt.
Okay, we have Tobias Altin. We're gonna delay the coolness.
Oh.
We're gonna the spice just a little bit longer. He's
Don't
gonna
spill
be
the
playing.
spice.
He's gonna be playing Goki, but what his opponent is playing, Zacharis, coming from Greece, is playing Lightsworn. So we're going to be seeing 60 cards, Lightsworn, and seeing how that goes. Oh, he's actually playing 40 card Lightsworn. My apologies.
And what's his tech card, Matt?
The tech card. Which one are you referring to?
Judgment Dragon.
Oh yeah, he's playing Judgment Dragon in the main. I forgot to mention that. How long has it been since we've seen that? It's like, oh yeah, I've made a full extra link. My monsters can't be destroyed by effects. But somehow Judgment Dragon is doing something because his player's XO right now, right?
X1.
He's X1.
Both of these guys are X1. Yeah.
So these are relatively high in the standings. We got some basic stats about the players, although I believe one of our players, we don't have
not
too
a
much
lot of
data
tournaments. No, not very many tournaments for our Lightsworn player, Georgios. Not much for him. However, Tobias Altin played in the Swedish National Championships, and he's actually the champion by the looks of it. Yeah.
Right. Oh, congratulations to him. And what is his overall seasonal win percentage this time?
77.7777777.
That's pretty specific.
Yeah,
so that's really high win percentage. And you played how many tournaments?
Just 5.
Just 5, okay.
Yeah, so not that many tournaments.
So it's not a real true representation, but it's still very high. For the 5 that you did attend, you at least go and win them, right?
Yeah, exactly.
It'll be interesting to see how this plays out, because I'm super curious to see how Lightsworn is breaking apart these established Goki fields. But the deck it gets to play a lot of his cards, and it gets a lot of triggers, so it does get to do a lot of flooding. So perhaps that's contributing to how George is actually able to clean up these fields.
Yeah, absolutely. And because it's such a kind of outsider deck, we don't have many of those in the tournament, so they're under the other category. Obviously, other is got a crazy win rate.
How many of these rogue decks have actually took down Goki, which is considered the deck to beat this weekend?
Let's have a quick look.
I can imagine it's probably not that high. Actually taking a
We
look.
have 107 other decks, apparently.
So these are basically decks that we didn't categorize because we sort of hit our limit in categorization and decided to just group them all together.
Yeah, and they have a 29% win rate against Goki.
So Goki is very good against the rogue decks right now in this tournament. So if you're sitting down against a rogue, you're generally looking pretty good.
They've got an 80. The other decks, so all of the other rogue decks kind of piled together, have an 83% win rate against ABC. What a random statistic for you.
Oh, it's a good idea to not be on ABC then this weekend if you're worried about the other decks.
Yeah, you're getting smashed just by the rogue decks. But I think that's going to be it from us. We've got this interesting match, and Thomas and Oliver are going to be dying to tell you all about it. Let's get over to those guys.
Yeah, welcome back, guys. We're almost ready to get our game on. We're going to take a very quick look at the player match histories of these two guys. Let's start with Tobias Altin, the Swedish national champion. Here we see him. He won round 1 against True Draco Lennart Farrell from Germany. Won round 2, Paul Schuffenegger from France, apparently, Sky Striker Trickster. Round 3, he won again against Tobias Haag with Goki. Then he lost the last round, the second to last round, and the last round he drew. So that is it for him. So strong start, but after that was losing a little bit of his momentum. And his opponent is actually even more interesting.
So yeah, we have Zacharis from Greece here. He's been playing through undefeated up to round 4. In just the last round, he played against a previous European champion from the last time we were here in Berlin.
Samir Bashar,
who took the match with Pendulum Magician, but he marches on with his current 4-1 record coming into round 6. A little bit of a David and Goliath situation here. So we know George hasn't played many tournaments. He's playing a relatively under-the-radar deck.
Right.
But Tobias, already a national champion, playing one of the strongest and most well-represented decks in the field. It'll be interesting to see if we get an upset and have the Gouki deck taken down and see if Extra Links can do enough against the Lightsworn.
The other thing is we had players with like win ratios of 50-something% enter YCS and end up becoming the champion, and that was the start of their journey to becoming one of the top duelists. So let's see if it's going to be the same for these two. We head over to the feature match of round number 6. All right, we got Tobias Altin on the left. Georgios, by the way, this is how you say it. Georgios Zacharis from Greece on the right-hand side.
I think he might go as George.
Yeah, he's one of those guys that says, okay, there's no hope that half of these announcers are getting my name right. So I'm just going to go with the English version of the name. So yeah, I guess George is probably fine for him, but Georgios is the proper... This is the name his mother gave him, let's just put it that way. Alright, so what do we make of these opening hands? Georgios is going first with a solar recharge. And is Tobias actually reading the card?
If you want to attend public events,
He's just checking. Oh, is it? Okay.
Very quick to resolve that solar recharge. He's not waiting around to see if there's an ash blossom.
Yeah, right. He tried to get around that way. So here's a foolish burial. That might be a wolf.
You see, George has got one of his 2 main deck trap cards in hand there. He's got 1 copy of Torrential Tribute and 1 copy of Evenly Matched in the main deck.
Pre-register for the team tournament or the mega regional. You have to
Sorry, the evenly matched is...
He has the 1 copy of Torrential Tribute of his 2 traps in the main
okay,
deck.
sorry, yeah. Okay, now I got it.
Uses Monster Reborn to make his way into Minerva.
What do you think of Torrential Tribute in the current format?
Any trap card that's as powerful as a Torrential Tribute can make its way into a deck as even just as a single copy. It's completely unexpected and it can have huge impact on the game. Like, you read that card, it destroys all monsters.
Yeah,
and it's a card you can play on your opponent's turn. It might not be perfect, it might be dead some of the time, but the times that it does work, it's so strong. Oh, did we just see Minerva activated under Droll and Lockbird there? That's not a legal activation. The draw effect is mandatory, so you can't attempt to use that effect if Droll and Lockbird has been used. Sorry, we were distracted talking about...
That's alright. It's not actually our job.
Okay.
But we can, of course, try and wave at the judges frantically. And the judges are going to double check. So far, it's pretty easy to basically rewind the game state to make sure that all of that is fine. Toyn is telling us it is possible.
Okay.
So
I had misinterpreted the problem-solving card text. I thought that the draw was mandatory. And so you can't activate an effect that could force you to draw a card.
according to everyone here ganging up on me, it was in a ruling sheet from a previous YCS.
Okay.
So there we go. That is fresh, hot off the presses. This is apparently possible. It's not optional, but possible. Okay, whatever. Thank you guys for double checking. See, our judges are absolutely up to speed here. And with that, it still doesn't put Georgios in a perfect situation. But
no,
he does have an effect veiler.
He does have an effect veiler. I'm not sure that one copy of effect veiler is going to be enough for the full onslaught of Goki that we'll see here. So the effect veiler will negate the effect of Super X, but the token is already a warrior, so he can get straight to his assault. Do we have the cards in graveyard for George? I don't believe that there's any interaction sat there. I'm
not sure if we got all of them, because there are quite a few there, but this should be the contents of the graveyard. 2 copies Solar Recharge, Winged Dragon of Wrath, Spear Mode in the main deck, interestingly enough.
Critically, no Fairy Tale Snow.
No, like, it wasn't the best mills, basically.
I think this game 1 has already finished.
Doesn't look very promising for Georgios, according to our resident expert. I'm always rooting for the underdog. This is why I was cheering for England earlier, and that worked out pretty well so far. Actually, I didn't want to lose my commentators. I didn't want to be like giving massages and stuff to Luke and Matt in between matches, so just so they have their spirits high enough.
So yeah, I think here we're going to see the full Goki Nightmare board resolving. It's likely that we will go through Nightmare Unicorn on the way to get rid of that Minerva without destroying it.
Mm-hmm.
You don't want to trigger the effect. It has non-targeting destruction if it's sent to the graveyard by a Tobias card effect. So I suspect it will be removed in another way.
Yeah, Tobias is, he looks like he's onto something. Is there, I think Georgios is just checking, do I have a response or not, with one more card in hand. Although that card is a glow-up bulb, so he's trying to telegraph something that he doesn't have, which is a nicer way of saying he's trying to bluff here. And I don't think there's anything that would stop Tobias from going for it, right?
No, even if the last card in George's hand was a hand trap that could theoretically interfere, Tobias would still attempt to make his plays and force the hand trap activation.
Right.
And here we'll see the typical firewall adjacent to a Nightmare Link monster. Link away the goblin into the mermaid positioned above the firewall, and then it's just a trivial matter of going through one by one on your Gokis, chain them together, and summon more and more monsters with the firewall. As we know, no once per turn restriction on the summon from hand effect. You can just keep throwing out monsters again and again.
Yeah. Reminds me of Max Fröbel when we interviewed him for the quick questions yesterday, and he said one of the best things about Duel Links, he can play it while the opponent is assembling the Goki field. So he can just bring it out and start playing. And that is one of the reasons he likes it. And I was like, okay, thank you. Didn't hear that from anybody else so far.
We are, of course, forgetting the face-down torrential tribute. It was covered briefly by George's arm, but he does have one piece of real interaction left.
Maybe that is what he's aiming for here. When does he need to pull that trigger? Is it as late as possible, or is there a moment when it's going to be too late?
If at any point Tobias summons a Nightmare Cerberus, I believe, prevents the destruction of co-linked monsters, then it's too late.
Okay, yeah, that works. And so far, he's definitely making it seem like he's got some sort of response, but he's baiting his opponent into thinking that it's in his hand and not on his field. In fact, I think he hasn't even touched ever the face-down card on his field,
yeah,
the Torrential Tribute.
This could be some excellent gamesmanship by George, just taking his time to actually think, but throwing a real curveball with which card he's thinking about.
Yeah, yeah.
Check the text on my glow-up bulb.
And there it is. Look at that. Big surprise, big surprise. Tobias Altin was probably not seeing that coming. And now he's in a world of trouble because of that Minerva effect that is also going to be triggering.
I believe the effect of Minerva will only trigger if it's destroyed by an opponent's card effect.
If this card is destroyed by battle, or if this card in its owner's possession is destroyed by an opponent's card effect, you are correct. So, no, that's not going to happen, but still.
And the effect of the Firewall Dragon will be able to be used here to get back one card from Tobias' grave into the hand.
He's not forgetting about it, which is important.
Yep. So he takes the Super X to set himself up for the following turn. George still needs to draw something very strong to not be out of this game, but there are things that he could find.
Right. But good thinking, good presence of mind of Tobias here. And he's like, okay, I'm not just going to have that resolve, I'm going to think about my options and I'm going to respond to this.
With the engaged, do we have the threshold for spells engraved to get the draw as well?
Sorry, come again?
There was a Hornet Drones activated for the token to summon Kagari. Yes, we've got loads of spells, so Tobias takes a draw off the engage second effect if you have 3 or more spells engraved.
Yeah, there's a couple. And this isn't even the entire graveyard. There's a few more cards. There's Isolde, Firewall Dragon and Nightmare Goblin, on top of all the other cards that are listed here.
I think it will take quite some top tip for George to make his way back.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if Tobias keeps going, and then he passes play. George is just drawing for his turn and being like, okay, that's it, I've seen enough. But now he's no longer relying, or he can no longer rely on the element of surprise. That might play a big role. We've seen that a couple of times this weekend, with the rogue decks being only really good in that first game when you have the element of surprise. Solar Recharge is his top deck, but he's just gonna set it after checking his graveyard, setting the glow up bulb, and that is it for the turn.
Game over. At this point, George is relying on Tobias having a hand with no plays, and we know that's not the case.
Right. And somebody asked about the records. Tobias is 4-1. Sorry, Tobias is 3-1-1. And Georgios, now I'm getting confused. George or Georgios is 4-1 at the moment. So that's it prior to this match. Let's see how it's going to turn out after that match. 2 losses and a draw. It's not a good position to be in to still advance to the top cut. It's not impossible.
2 losses and a draw may still be just on the threshold of where you need to be.
Yeah.
Anything worse than 2 losses and a draw would definitely be not making the top cut. But 2 losses and a draw, given that we're playing to a top 64 cut rather than just a top 32, probably safe.
Probably safe, but you need to win all of the remaining matches. So this is where it counts for Tobias Altin. George Zacharis, with 2 losses, he would still be in competition, but again, he also would have to win almost all of his remaining matches. Right.
So we see going straight to the battle phase there, not pushing lethal damage.
Yeah, was he maybe expecting something that could have been like a big surprise and caught him off guard?
It's possible, or maybe he just didn't have the extra deck left that he would have needed to push more damage.
Right.
I think perhaps a unicorn to shuffle away the set monster might have done a little bit more.
Right. Especially the glow up bulb, you don't mind it being in the graveyard.
So I think we'll now be into main phase 2.
Right.
Tobias perhaps not so clinical in finishing off this match as he could have been, but he's still in a commanding position.
And the question is, if you are Georgios, will you just shuffle up here? Or are you just gonna keep watching your opponent here? Is there anything to be gained?
I don't think that there's really any more information to be given away. He'll see his next card, but I don't imagine that with a glow-up bulb and a Goblin Bug in hand, he's going anywhere.
Yep. Agreed. And he does agree as well. So now it is 1-0 for the Swedish national champion. Was a bit of confusion because I actually thought that there's a different player who is the Swedish national champion. I can try and bring that up for you guys. Why not bring it up for you guys, but talk about it. It's Jonathan Ljungman, who is fixed. He's got a fixed seat at table 15. He's also national champion. However, he was one of the invaders in Norway. So the Swedish guys, they sent a couple of duelists over and they said, you're going to take this down. And they did just that. And Jonathan Ljungman from Sweden actually won the Norwegian national championship.
So the Swedish hold both national championships for Norway and Sweden this year. And
actually, Tobias was about to say something like, we also sent a couple of guys to Finland, but then he's like, no, I was just kidding. Just imagine that. So Sweden going through all the Nordic countries, and then next year they continue with Denmark or something, and then the year after with Germany.
Conquering Scandinavia and then moving south.
Right, exactly. It's a winning strategy.
Okay, so players are going to their side decks here. What cards are we going to be looking at?
Right. We have 2 guys that don't just focus on 5 individual cards that are being played in 3s. Instead, they are focusing on a couple of different cards. So more flexibility for these side decks. George has got the Winged Dragons of Ra, which is good against Goki.
The third copy, yeah.
The third copy, you're right, yes, he's already playing 2 in the main deck. That would be something. He's got 2 more copies of Torrential Tribute. I mean, it did something in that first game. Is it still going to do something if your opponent sees it coming?
I think Torrential Tribute could still be a very effective card, even when you know it's coming. Like, knowing that your monsters are going to be destroyed doesn't mean that they aren't being destroyed.
Okay. Then we see 2 more Effect Veilers. That seemed like it didn't do all that much in that first duel. I guess sometimes it can be really clutch, but yeah, what are the odds?
Yeah, Droll Lockbird is typically the more impactful hand trap to have against the Gouki decks.
Which is not playing at all.
No.
Neither
it doesn't necessarily feel like this Lightsworn list has been built to tackle the current meta. There's some interesting deck building decisions. Obviously, you can't underrate Judgment Dragon. That's a card that can swing a game just in one fell swoop. It summons, it blows up the board, and it does a huge amount of damage.
For a bargain price.
The hand trap lineup isn't what you would expect to see from a deck that's going to be a real contender in a field full of Goki and Trickstars.
So that's going to be interesting what the reason is, because normally we see the Greek players being super prepared for these tournaments. So there must be a story there, and maybe we can hear it later if we happen to have him in the interview. Right now we are going to look at the opening hands for the second duel. Unless you see something in Tobias' side deck where you're like, okay, this is definitely going to make it in.
Well, Tobias' side deck, again, we have some hand traps. I don't know what this card translates to.
I'm going to look it up.
He has a Topologic Gumblar Dragon in his side deck, but that's only likely to be brought in when he's playing first to try and take cards out of the hand. Is it a Needlebug Nest?
No. No, this is something else. It's very hard to read, actually. It's Kaiki the Unity Star.
Okay, that's not a card that I know. Is it one of the new ones from Relentless Revenge?
It's from BLRR.
Yes, that's the new Battles of Legend set.
Yep. So if this card is special summoned except during the damage step, you can pay 500 life points, fusion summon 1 warrior fusion monster from your extra deck, using monsters from your hand or field as fusion material.
I don't think that's the effect we'll be seeing it for.
Maybe not. During your opponent's turn, if this card is in your graveyard and you control a level 5 or higher warrior monster whose current attack is different from its original attack, quick effect, you can special summon this card. You can only use each effect of Kaiki the Unity Star once per turn.
Okay, so the card there is sided in alongside Topologic Gumblar Dragon to be able to special summon a monster to a linked zone during the opponent's turn. Each effect of Gumblar Dragon you can only use either effect once per turn, so you can't use both effects on your first turn, but you can set up to use one effect on your turn going first.
Right.
And then have the effect of Kaiki the Unity Star in your graveyard ready to go in your opponent's standby phase. It hits the board, triggers the second effect of Gumblar Dragon, taking another 2 cards away.
Sounds like an interesting combo, but I guess the stars need to be aligned for it to work.
Yes, although Goki is pretty good at aligning the stars.
Okay.
The Unity Star can be searched with the first effect of Isolde on summon. The downside there being that you can't use the effect of the searched card the turn that it is added to hand, but Kaiki doesn't mind. He's sat in the grave to activate the following turn.
Yeah.
So you search him out from the deck, and he dumps himself to the grave, ready to go for the second effect of Gumblar. And then if you're doing your full extra link combo, it's not a huge task to get yourself into that Gumblar Dragon.
Seems like a nice little piece of combo play that not everybody's going to see coming.
No, but obviously we have to think that it must come with some significant risks if people are only choosing to side it.
Right.
If you only want to play it when you're going first, then it's not going to be the most reliable combo.
Very fair assessment. Very hard to argue. Alright, so again, George went first. He ends up with Raiden and Lumina on the field. He's got a Wolf in hand, which is known as a kind of dead card very often. And Tobias is trying to fight back, and he's got, of course, Sky Striker, Ace Kagari. This is very often the opening for Sky Strikers. One thing we should point out is that there's an Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring that Tobias used very early on.
It was negating the shared ride.
Right.
George ended his turn setting the shared ride to his side of the field. Tobias starts off activating his engage. Shared ride is chained as Chainlink 2, and the Ash Blossom prevents further draws.
Right. So the Solar Recharge went through. That George also has an... Oh, maybe it got milled. I'm not 100% sure here.
I think 7 cards at least were milled on George's first turn with the effects of Raiden and Lumina.
Right, this is the graveyard. And yes, I don't think we would have gone for the searches he went for. Alright, so now we see Fairy Tail Snow. Formerly known as the best card in the format. A term or a title bestowed on it by Alpay Engin. That's like a year ago, 1.5 years ago, something like that.
It's still an incredibly strong card. We don't necessarily have the decks to support it now that we once did, but the power level of it hasn't changed at all.
Yeah.
The slight nook in its armor is that Link monsters can't be changed to defense position, so they're effectively immune to the on-summon effect of Snow.
Right.
But interacting with the monsters that would be used as those Link materials is still hugely powerful.
So now Tobias has been stopped, dead in his tracks. He's left with Chunk Forward, a Phoenix Blade, and Goki rematch. So that's looking pretty promising for George here.
Yeah, George certainly appears to be in a very good position for this game. I don't know how his deck would fare if he can win this one and force it to game 3, having to play second against Gouki. I don't think that he necessarily has the hand trap lineup that he needs, and with only a single copy of Evenly Matched between his main and side deck, he'd be really struggling against the resolved Goki board.
Yeah, that's going to be interesting to see, but first he needs to win that second duel. So let's see if he can do that.
We're going to see a lot of cards sent to the graveyard here, combining the effects of Minerva and Garroth.
And it doesn't look like Tobias is capable of doing anything against it.
We see 3 cards sent for Minerva, and there will be 1 draw. And then the effect of Garroth will trigger, milling a further 2, and drawing addition 1.
Not bad. Could have been way worse. There's a second Fairy Tail Snow in George's hand. Oh.
So he has one Snow in hand, 1 Snow in grave, and 1 Snow on the field under the Minerva. So he uses the first Lumina, discarding a Snow to get the second Lumina, and he will be able to use the second Lumina's effect, discarding one of the other cards in his hand, likely the Wolf. Special summon any other Lightsworn, or he could even get the Wolf if he just wants attack points.
Yeah, he's got so many options here. Goblindberg in hand still. Did he normal summon for the turn?
I don't know that he has done. Yes, he may well have normal summoned the Garroth, because the first Lumina summoned the second, and the second Lumina summoned the Wolf. That's a Link 3, I believe. Curious. Choose 1 card in his deck to send to the grave, and then send a random 3 thereafter.
He's gonna go deck out if he continues this. Though I think his strategy is to just win before he goes deck out. So he's somewhat prepared for this.
Yeah, I'm not sure whether the Curious was necessarily needed there. He already had a lot of attack points, and he sacrificed quite a bit to put it out. Most of his deck already in the graveyard at this point. But having more fuel for the Snow, never really a problem.
Yeah, that's one of the welcome side effects of this deck. It's also a pretty big monster, of course. I mean, 3 monsters with the same attribute but different types are not that easy to summon when you compare it to some of the other Link monsters. You can get a card back when it is destroyed.
Stardust Dragon! Oh, one of the oldest synchro monsters in the game. Been a long time since we've seen that.
Yeah, I'm just waiting for Gihan to just suddenly pop up in the venue and he just goes, oh, Axel Synchro.
I was expecting to see a Cyframe Lord Omega coming down there, but no, we're going full old school, straight on the Stardust.
Yeah, he definitely gets some extra points for flash.
Yeah,
like, for flashiness and being like, hey, if I
plus
win...
50 duelist points.
Yeah, exactly. Like, if I win this, I'm going to win it with style. There's no way I'm going to go, like, out of this competition or I'm going to lose this match without winning a single duel. And if I win a single duel, I'm going to win it with style.
Yeah, I'm happy about where this is going.
Yeah, he doesn't disappoint. Those Greek duelists, they come with plans within plans. So when he was making it seem like there's nothing else coming, he was just baiting us into believing that. And now he's catching us off guard and bringing out the heavy hitters from 2008.
Will he continue to make more Link summons? I mean, obviously the Link monsters aren't from 2008 though, so
no, they are not.
maybe he needs to find a colossal fighter in his extra deck. Or
What's this extra deck? Like, is this just for Flash? You see the one Stardust Dragon, and I think that is... Oh no, there's also Black Rose Dragon. Yeah, he's got a couple of Synchro monsters. It's not just this one. And there are the attacks. This one connects, and that clears the board. And now, oh my god, let's just agree that he won the game with Stardust Dragon. Let's just agree on that.
yeah,
So-
and with style.
And with style, yeah. So with that, it is 1-1 between Tobias Altin and Georgios Zacharis. And we got 15 minutes left in the round.
That's probably just about enough time for the first turn of a Goki player. I think we'll be seeing Tobias choosing to go first here, and unless George is very lucky drawing the hand traps that he needs to prevent the sword plays.
Just saw our volunteer who was operating the app. He just looked at us and was like, "Whoa, did you see that?" so even he went like, "Wow." And of course, one of the questions we're gonna have for the post-match analysis for later for Matt is gonna be whether the Stardust Dragon is gonna get limited or restricted. That's something that we need to talk about. Yeah, Matt is on the fence. He's not quite convinced yet.
Some of these synchro monsters are a bit too powerful for the meta game.
Yeah. I can tell. I've seen them quite a couple of times today. All right. So it looked like Georgios wasn't swapping cards between his, or exchanging cards between his main and side deck, whereas Tobias Altin is going to town, as Luke likes to say. He's putting in the work, and he looked over his side deck again. I think a couple of cards came out and a couple of cards came in. Maybe it's just the difference of going first instead of going second.
Yeah, I think Tobias will really want to be tuning his deck to give him the maximum opportunity to play through hand traps. He doesn't know that we're looking at a Lightsworn list with very few hand traps in the build at any places, so he'll be super cautious going in. He wants to make sure that he's got resilience to those Droll and Lockbirds.
It's also something like you didn't see them, so you can't just assume that your opponent is not playing them. But if you do, and he is, then you lost for certain.
Although, to be fair, Tobias did see just about every card in George's deck going to the grave there.
I was about to, but it could be a mind game. So there's like, it's very interesting. There are different ways to approach this. You could just say, hey, I've seen like 70% of your deck or something, so I'm just going to assume you're not going to play any hand traps. Ooh, 2 Raidens in the opening hand.
The one copy of Evenly Matched, though.
Oh, yeah, that's right, yeah.
Huge. If Tobias ends on a big board that doesn't feature a Trigate Wizard, that one Evenly Matched could come down and blow everything away.
This is going to be very, very interesting.
It will depend significantly whether Tobias goes for a traditional rigid extra link board or whether he is going on the topologic Gunblast strategy.
And we can see some people here like this guy. Wow. So let's see. And there's no way for Tobias to telegraph this.
No, we know it's the Gunblast strategy because he's searched the
oh, okay.
The Rising Star, I don't remember the English name, Kaiki der Einheitsstern.
Yeah, this is the Unity Star. Kaiki the Unity Star.
So that will end up in the grave for the second effect of Gunblar.
So this is the card that we talked about earlier. It did make an appearance in the main deck, and apparently it's going to put in the work here.
Yeah, I expect that we'll see 4 cards being taken away from George's hand before we get to his battle phase, but there's a chance.
So yeah, don't call it too early. All right.
Do we have access to the card effects of cards that are not yet on the field?
Kinda. Which card do you want to know?
Topologic Gunblar Dragon.
I'm gonna look that up for you.
Because if we've seen the Unity Star coming in, it's telegraphing that that is the play line that we're going towards. And if we just let Tobias make his plays and get there, we'll have a little heads up on what the effect is going to be once he summons it.
So if another monster is special summoned to a zone, a link monster points to while this monster is on the field, discard 1 or 2 random cards. Then your opponent discards the same number. If this card is extra linked and your opponent has at least 1 card in their hand, you can make your opponent discard 1 or 2 cards, whichever is higher. Then, if they have no more cards in their hand, inflict 3,000 damage to them. You can only use 1 effect per turn.
Okay. At no point there does it say that the cards discarded are random. Does the
first effect did discard 1 or 2 random cards.
So the cost is for the Goki player to discard random cards, but it doesn't force your opponent to discard random cards.
That is correct, yes.
So George is able to hold on to that evenly matched in his hand.
He's gonna hold on to that like a madman. That card is gonna be marked after this round. If he gets a deck check next round, we can say goodbye from this tournament, because the judge is going to be like, there's a pressure mark in the corner of that card. Looks like somebody was biting on it, and he's like, no, I just held on to that with my dear life.
So we're going to see a few minutes of Gouki combos here. The extra links that we've been talking about with all kinds of cards.
Oof. This must be harsh, just watching that.
Well, George is just sitting there patiently, staring at us evenly matched and saying, please get me through, please get me through, please get me through.
It's like you're walking through a snowstorm and you have like a very tiny umbrella and you're like, please hold. Yeah, don't crack a pon or something. Other comparisons come to mind. One of them involves hold the door, but I'm not going to go there. All right, so things are looking quite well for Tobias Altin from Sweden, the Swedish national champion of 2018.
He's just going through the motions. He'll have done this Gouki combo several times already today.
Yeah, I would be surprised if he didn't know where to go next. All of this he can do blindfolded and with his hands tied behind his back, because this is what it takes to be a national champion. I know for a fact, because Tom is commentating blindfolded and with his hands tied behind his back. No, he's not. He's not.
Oh dear, was that dragged down? Tobias has just drawn dragged down from the grave.
Oh, he did. Oh my god. Oof. So much for that theory where we thought that this one card can turn things around on its own.
So much for that evenly. Although, of course, he may choose not to play it. At this point, Tobias may be so certain that there are no hand traps in hand for George that he doesn't want to play it. But he does also know that there's Winged Dragon of Ra Sphere mode in the deck list.
Yeah, he saw it discarded, sent to the graveyard in the earlier matches.
So once he's finished with his combo for the turn, it's likely that he will then choose to activate Drag Down to the Grave as the last thing that he does to make sure that there's no Sphere mode hitting the board.
How funny would it be if he gets rid of all the other cards, he does Drag Down, gets rid of Evenly Matched, and the card that Georgios is drawing is the Winged Dragon of Ra Sphere mode. that would be pretty priceless. Okay. I should get back to my second favorite hobby, which is writing the script for anime episodes.
Yeah. Big if. Big if.
Big yes.
Big if true.
Yeah. Yeah, some of the other guys are going to come up to me and they're like, okay, the first round this evening is on you, because you called that correctly. All right. More and more blue cards are entering the field. something that you're getting used to if you watch enough Goki. And he's still got so many cards in hand. This is the part that I find very hard to believe. Normally you invest resources to get other resources. So you, for example, discard cards from your hand to get monsters on the field. And in this deck it's just the opposite. You get more monsters on the field and more cards in hand. Like, where's the drawback in this deck?
Droll and Lockbird is the drawback.
Okay.
Having weakness to hand traps, like you can have a single card that will shut down the entirety of your turn, but if you aren't being shut down, there really isn't a lot of weakness.
Right. Alright, so this is looking promising for Tobias Altin with Goki Nightmare. It wouldn't look that promising because of that evenly matched. However, he's got dragged down to the grave. The big question though, is he gonna activate the card? And this sounds like a weird question, to be honest. Why wouldn't he? But you pointed out there's a chance that he just believes his opponent doesn't have anything.
He may believe that his opponent doesn't have a hand trap, but he still can't risk the Winged Dragon of Ra Sphere mode, so he's got to activate it when he gets to the end of the combo anyway.
Yeah.
Which it would be a miracle for George to be able to pull through with his Lightsworns and activate the evenly matched, but I just don't believe that'll happen.
So Fairy Tale Snow is being sent to the graveyard, and one of the Raidens.
And there it is.
There's the drag down. Ah.
And George doesn't even have the possibility of drawing into a new one.
Oof. The evenly matched gets picked from the hand. That hurts so very much. Ah. The entire country of Greece is going to be crying in unison and not going to be happy about this one. Doesn't even matter really what Georgios is picking from Tobias' hand here. He draws a card. It's a Monster Reborn.
It's not a sphere mode.
It's not a sphere mode. Ugh. And that also was not a sphere mode, the other card he drew. It was another copy of Goblinberg.
And here we see the Unity Star effect coming out adjacent.
Yeah, really nice. Really nice. It's cool that we get to see this after we talked about it earlier in the match. This combo seems pretty strong. I mean, if you have the advantage and then you can just further press the advantage. So Tobias is now, let's recap this. Tobias is now getting rid of 2 random cards from his hand.
Yep. And that will force George to discard a further 2 cards from his hand. But given that we know that none of those cards is evenly matched, it just doesn't matter.
Yeah.
There's no evenly matched and there's no sphere mode.
We kind of saw that just now with Tobias also like not really caring which cards get discarded from his hand. So now George is left with a Monster Reborn, a Goblinberg, and 2 more cards? Why is that?
But no plays. It doesn't matter which cards he keeps and which he gets rid of. Even with the Monster Reborn, he has no extra Monster Zone available to him. There's a discussion about how many cards he needs to discard. He still needs to get rid of a further card from his hand at this point.
Yeah. Oof. Wow. What an opening. It looked like George could turn this around thanks to that evenly match. That would have been really, really timely. But in the end, dragged down to the grave. A card that we didn't see for a very long time. Used to be good in Dark World.
Yeah.
Kinda.
And maybe we'll see it coming out again with the danger cards on the horizon.
Right. Yep. Yeah. Those are also having some nice interactions with that card. So George is now thinking about what the most elegant way to pick up his cards is, I guess. Because at this point, there's like nothing he can do, right?
Yeah, he can't even summon a Stardust Dragon and concede because he doesn't have access to an extra monster zone.
Yeah, that's. I think that is the most hurtful part about this field, to be honest. That he doesn't even get to see the Stardust Dragon again. I'm still going to say he's a hero in my heart for that second duel. The way he won that one, that's going to go down in the highlight reel for this weekend.
Yeah, absolutely. He may not, of course, be quite out here, given that there are Link monsters in the opponent's graveyard, and he doesn't have an Ibli. He can activate his Monster Reborn, to get back one of those and give himself a different extra monster zone amongst the main monster zones.
Right.
So,
But no, okay. There was the theoretical chance that this could be clutch, that this could help him a little bit, but in the end he went through the options and realized there was nothing that he could do.
Yeah.
It was one of the matches where we saw a crowd assemble and they went with it. They were really like, oh, this is interesting, this is exciting what's happening here. And when the Stardust Dragon hit the field, everybody was going wild for it. Everybody was like, wow, I haven't seen that in a couple of years. So, what do you make of this? Tobias Altin rebounded, basically, after a loss and a draw. He's now back in competition, so to speak.
well, going into the match, I felt like Tobias was the favorite. We nearly saw an upset from the evenly matched in that Game 3, but dragged down, just showing us why it's made its way into the competitive game after being dormant for so long.
It's dragged George down into the grave with it. So with that, let's take you guys over there to our commentator's desk, analyst's desk with Luke and Matt.
Hello and welcome back to the European Championships 2018. We were necessarily not prepared for the interview just now, but now we're ready. We're ready to go. We were just double checking exactly how to pronounce your name because I butcher people's names on a regular basis.
Nice.
Congratulations.
Guilty of.
Thank you.
Very well played there. That was going into that match. As soon as you see your opponent start doing some Lightsworn nonsense, you must have started feeling a little bit nervous, right?
I was really excited. Lightsworn's a really fun deck.
Yeah.
So it was fun to play against something that, is a bit off the wall.
Yeah.
So, was there anything you were particularly worried about? We saw in that first game Trendle Tribute getting flipped up. And
Yeah. Traps kind of hurt, and Fairy Tail Snow is really good. Because flipping things down means that they take up your monster zone and you can't link with them. And the entire deck is based on linking, so Fairy Tail Snow is a real big problem, actually.
Yeah. I don't think you got to see his tech card, his ultimate tech card. He was actually playing Judgment Dragon.
he had a Judgment Dragon in there.
Oh, I would love to see that. That would have been so cool.
He didn't actually, when you saw the entire deck getting sent to the graveyard, the Judgment Dragon was still in
it
there.
was
We
still
wonder,
in
it's
there.
like,
Yeah.
that's got to be coming up pretty soon.
That would have been so cool.
I bet at the end of the second match, well, tell me how you felt at the end of the second match, when you saw his combos like really going off with
Stardust
Garroth.
Dragon, Tornado Dragon,
It
Garroth.
was a bit scary. My only win condition of that one was just him milling himself out.
Yeah.
But
That's a bad place, right? Where you're like, what's my win condition? Oh, he's going to run out of cards. He's going to run out of
he had
cards.
5 left in deck when he killed me, but that was what I was hoping for, but he killed me, so that was fine.
I remember when Lightsworn didn't have the ability to exceed someone out or link someone out. You were like, oh, I can't win this turn. I've definitely lost now. But
That's when you flip up
don't have
Beckoning
that.
of Light and add back 3 Judgment Dragons. That's your win con.
Yeah, that's how it's done.
Sounds broken.
So your last game, that was great. He's got his evenly match. We see he can do nothing to your combo, and you see her going for the Gumbler, and it's like, oh dear, he's going to be able to strip everything, and he's just going to hold on to that evenly match. He's got it ready. And then you, during your link combos, rip the drag down to the grave.
Yep.
I'd imagine as soon as he played that, he put his cards down. It's like, no, you don't need to see those. You're like, nope.
Yeah, that was pretty amazing. The commentators were just constantly going on about whether you felt safe enough to just kind of forget that you had dragged down to the grave or not. So that was definitely a bit of a shock.
Did you make the read, or were you just curious to see what he had left in his hand?
I was mostly curious, but
There's no reason not to, right?
there was no real reason not to. Like, you Gumbler away 2 cards, and after that, they keep their best cards. So I've already narrowed down the field.
Yeah.
So if I can make him discard a good card, I mean, you shouldn't be able to play on 2 cards.
We were thinking that the kind of closest logic to you definitely doing it would be that you were going to look for the sphere modes that you saw earlier. So, yeah.
I was afraid of the sphere modes, and I saw Raigeki as well. That breaks that board because I didn't summon Kerberos.
Yeah.
I was a little bit afraid of those.
Yeah. So interestingly, so you won the Swedish National Championship,
I did.
is that right? Yeah. So we definitely got the right Tobias Altin.
Yeah.
So you have a 77% win rate.
I haven't played in many tournaments.
Over the past season.
But
Well, 5 tournaments, still a reasonable
It's pretty
number.
solid. It means the ones that you did, you got to go out and go to. You go, at least I'm going to win them, right?
Yeah.
Which is that's pretty strong. That means that every 4 people that you sit in front of, only one of them is going to beat you.
Yeah.
That's quite a good statistic.
That is pretty good.
Yeah.
So what matchup this weekend are you really fearing? If you got any of that you just don't want to play, or are you just like, yeah, bring it all on?
I don't really like the mirror match. The mirror match
Right.
is kind of dice rolly.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Because even if you sign in 12 hand traps, there's still drag down, there's the Aqua Dolphin, there's Called by the Grave, there's even Exchange, but there's so many different cards that people are playing to just stop hand traps, and if they resolve combo against you, it's over.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's not really much of a board breaking potential in the Goki deck. Well, do you have any closing comments or anything you'd like to say? Any fans back home you want to give a shout out?
We saw a lot of guys cheering for you.
There's
in
a
the
lot
crowd.
of Swedish people right there. Shout outs to all of them. They're really cool.
All right, well, so that's it for us in this feature match. Congratulations and good luck in the rest of the tournament. And we'll be right back with the next round of the European Championships 2018. See you guys soon.